that bit better?
That's a little bit better, yeah.
Okay.
It's really faint at my end.
All right, well, the next bit is then it emerged during your trial or afterwards, but I think it was during the trial, how much money the police had spent on their action against you. What can you tell listeners how much...
it's called Operation Bohan, and it's estimated to be just over £1 million. However, Chris Plumley, Channel 4 Dispatches correspondent, who's now taken over an investigation of her own into obviously following this, we're talking millions.
Right. So listeners, of course, know that throughout the country the police are complaining that they haven't got the money and the resources to tackle basic crime. Yeah. And yet here we suddenly have over £1 million and 20 officers unleashed. And I'd like to just bring you back to this company Kroll that's suddenly there. So what you're saying, Ian, is that a private security company was somehow able to put in phenomenal leverage on City of London police.
I mean, in the video, the new film that we've been making with Chris Plumley at Channel 4, in an interview with my barrister, which wasn't in the edit that you saw, but it's going to be in the new one, which should be ready in the next week or so. My barrister, Michael Wolkine QC, very respected barrister in his field, he says on the film when interviewed, he says effectively the whole of the prosecution was run by Kroll, and he said that the internal emails showed that Kroll suggested to City of London police what to do, and his words, not mine, they bowed to the elite private security company. Right.
Now, this, of course, we're really getting into the meat of this thing here, because the moment you start to say that you've got private companies able to control the police, they are able to control 20 police officers as a minimum, and ultimately a budget expenditure of over £1 million. Something has happened. We don't seem to have democracy. We don't seem to have accountability anymore. How is it that this company Kroll has got this phenomenal power over our public protection via the police? Now, there's something else which gets interesting because, and I'll use that wonderful expression, I think I'm right in saying that one of the people connected with Kroll is a gentleman called Bill Bratton.
He's the chairman.
He's the chairman, yeah.
And he's the chairman. But correct me if I'm wrong again on this, Ian, isn't this the same man that David Cameron thought should be heading our police force in London?
Yeah, he's over here now. He's staying in I think it's the Dorchester in Park Lane. He's acting now as a security consultant or private consultant to the Home Office on policing.
Right, so David Cameron, who at the moment is making very big of how we need to get to grips with the police and we need to do this and that, David Cameron is using a man from a company that was quite clearly running amok in your case. So if
just Ian's case.
So we've got a company called Kroll, which is obviously Mr. Cameron supports greatly because he's prepared to use senior officers from Kroll to sort out the police force in this country. So I'm going to come on to accountability. Who are these people accountable to? I mean, if he's a private security man, who is he accountable to? David Cameron?
They're not. That's the whole issue. I mean, ACPO. I was talking to Ken Livingstone, the former mayor of London, and he was saying ACPO, which the Association of Police Constables, it's a private company, a private limited company. He said to me, "Do you know who they're accountable to?" And I said, "Well, obviously the Home Secretary." He said, "No, they're not accountable to anyone." I said, "That can't be. You're joking." He said, "No." He said he was gobsmacked when he found out.
Well, doesn't make sense.
Well, we're just joining up bits. I don't know whether you heard the start of the programme, but
I didn't know.
Well, we were talking about Robert Greene, who's been in prison for a year for trying to get the truth out about the rape and sexual abuse of a little Down syndrome girl.
Yeah.
And quite clearly the Scottish establishment, together with the police, both north of the border and south of the border, have conspired. That's a criminal offence, a conspiracy to cover up and pervert the course of justice. So we're seeing the political establishment prepared to actually work to cover up the abuse of very, very vulnerable children. And now in your case, we're seeing the political establishment absolutely covering up the misuse of police assets to come in against you. And when we dig in the middle of it, we suddenly are talking about private companies. Now, a lot of listeners to this programme, I think, are going to be absolutely stunned to discover that the body that directs police policy is not a public body accountable to the general public. It's actually a private company. And we're now saying that they're not even accountable directly through to members of the government. And we've got other things going on in the background, because Theresa May, I think, has been recently in the press because people are suggesting, well, perhaps paedophiles are good people to foster and look after children. And we know that at the moment we've got another police unit called FTAC, the Fixated Threat Assessment Centre, which means that a group of police officers hidden away in London can turn up on your doorstep with a couple of psychiatrists, and without anybody else's say-so, no appearance in court, they can actually section you. Now, my background, as you know, is military. I was a naval officer till 1993, and during that time, much of it was Cold War time, we were trying to protect this country against a Soviet or a communist regime, which was absolutely using secret police forces and which was sectioning people to shut them up. And what I think I'm looking at the moment with the case with Robert Greene and Holly Gregg and other cases, but also your case, is that we've now got state machinery which is rapidly coming out of control.
So,
it's Chris Plumley says in the film that what makes my case so unique is the paper trail, because if we didn't have all the emails and all of the information, it would be me telling you, well, I think this happened and I think that happened, but in this case we actually know because they foolishly or stupidly or arrogantly sent emails to each other, which you just... they're not accountable. The accountability is not there. And then when you complain, they just close ranks.
Absolutely, but you've also said something else. I think you used the word arrogance. We're starting to see people who are so arrogant in breaking the law that they don't really care anymore, because nobody is taking these people to task.
No, well, that's the point, and they didn't expect me to react in the way that I had. By trying to make it so public. I had a very, very orthodox upbringing, very, ridiculously strict orthodox upbringing, and I was brought up to respect authority, and almost wrongly to not even question authority. So, somebody in an authority position says, stand here or move